Hello, it's Deborah from the attic. If you're new here, hi. There are over 400 videos, so please go and have a little look around. If you're in a hurry, use the playlists. They're all separated out for journal making, card making, and even a glimpse into my real French life here in the southwest of France, where it's a very hot day outside. So if we get occasional glimmers of sunlight on the camera, I hope you will be forgiving. It's quite difficult to get the shutters at the right angle so you don't get blinded by what I'm trying to show you. I always begin with a very quick look back at the previous month to show you how my journal developed for that month. For July, I had this stream of possibly invented flowers, I'm not too sure, and some leaves based very loosely on the bamboo leaves that I have in my garden. I cut out the centre so that I could then write in the month, the days and the numbers for July. That gives me a useful reference point, but I only like to do this really once in a month. I don't like to have, those planners where people are obviously far more patient than me and they will write out this sort of thing several times and use it as a tracker, etc, etc. I'm a bit lazy, I don't do that. So I've cut out that centerpiece. I've made a note of the colours that I've used. These are pastel pencil colours. And then I've also slightly varied the design from my cover page so that it is just leaves and little flowers. And you can see again, I've got my July details there. My journals are always very, very simple. This is what I found works for me because I'm quite impatient. I like to get things done. And so July, the way that I set out most of my months is I have the days of the week just initialed down the side. Then I have the days numbered down the side as well, and I use it more as an appointments diary or if there's anything that I want to remember, and then I write in a very, very simple, clean font across the top what the month is. And then I also like to use my design from the front and keep it coming forward onto these pages as a theme, and I always have one page which is goals, ideas and projects. As long as I've got somewhere that I can capture ideas that I have and not write them down on scraps of paper where they will get lost, this is really, really useful. Don't please feel that you have to use all the complicated layouts that you see online or on Instagram or places like that, because really you just have to do what works for you. And through a process of trial and error over several months last year, I found that this really works for me, and I found that through the year I've kept this up because it's simple, because it doesn't take up a lot of time. It's easier to come back and do month after month, and then I can incorporate as much artwork as I choose. My journal is about drawings. It's about where I capture doodles and ideas in visual form. And so this month I've been looking at leaves, at the different shapes of leaves, and I was amazed to discover that these have different names. It's quite fun, and it's a great fun thing to do because then it gives you a variety of leaves at your disposal, ready to use in any of your doodle projects. And then I did a little spray for the 14th of July, which is known around the rest of the world as Bastille Day, but here it's the 14th of July. And I wanted this to appear like a little rosette, but I didn't want to draw a rosette. So I made these sort of flowers into maybe one half of it looks a little bit like a rosette, and then I had a couple of extra flower heads going off in different directions, and I framed it with these rather pretty little ferns around the outside and kept it really simple and plain because I only wanted the colours of red, white and blue because those are the colours of the tricolour of the French flag. The next thing that I did in this month was experiment with grasses. I wanted to see how far I could take one basic leaf shape. So these leaves are pretty much the same. The only difference might be that one has got a slightly pointier top, or in this one they're clustered together in comparison to these, which are more freeform and easy. But I wanted to see just how much you could do with one simple leaf, and this is a really good example of it. When I looked at grasses, I found that the only thing that really distinguishes the grasses is where the leaves attach and how they attach to the main stem. So in this one, this is called wood millet, and in this stem you can see there are between 4 and 5 attachments where these very loose little branches come out, and then the leaves don't really appear until they're halfway down that tiny little branch. So by making all of my stems attached to the main stem here in the same spot and have 5 little arms coming off them, I made a really nice little leaf work in a different way because it was attached in a different way. I hope that makes sense. This one is called a bristle-leafed bent. And what was fun about this one is it's pretty much the same leaf. The only thing is that on the top, I made it just slightly more pointy and elongated that little top out of each of these. And where these attach is quite different again, because these attach at the same place but opposite each other. So whereas this had one place that then gave rise to 5 different branches, this has got 2, so it has one on either side, so they are parallel to each other. And then you just randomly add some of these little leaves, but they're essentially the same shape as these ones. This one is called a meadow fescue, and in this one the leaves are, the branches attach in a similar way to the stem as this one does. So you'll see that there are maybe 1 or 2 main branches coming out of the same spot. The difference here is that the leaves sort of, they pack together, so they sort of cluster beside each other, so they go in parallel to each other. And it's a bit like drawing a lavender where the leaves are really squashed up, if that makes sense, if that helps you imagine what I did with this one. But this was quite an interesting experiment because it showed me that with one simple leaf, I can do a variety of shapes. Then I adapted it into this. Now this, I wanted something really nice to frame this wonderful saying that I've seen many times from Maya Angelou, and I wanted to capture it in my book. So by drawing the leaves, similar style to how I did with the different grasses here, but then colouring them differently, you can see I got quite a different look. And you wouldn't think that these are grasses, but actually these are simply an adaptation of the practice work that I was doing here. I hope that gives you some inspiration for different ways that you can use a simple leaf shape, make it longer, shorter, fatter, make a little sort of curve on the top, on the end, and you can get a whole variety of ways to use it. And then I did a much bigger scale drawing. Now I've wanted to experiment with mushrooms, sounds wrong, drawing mushrooms for quite a while, and I started with the tree because of all the leaf work that I'd done on the previous couple of pages. I kind of started from the tree, and I knew I wanted this tree to frame a village of mushrooms underneath it. So that's what I did. Now this took quite a long time. This took about 2 days to draw out, and then it took perhaps 3 days to colour. I used coloured pencils to colour it in, and it was a very enjoyable piece to work on, and I took a lot longer over this than I normally do on anything in my journal. But it was really fun to do because this is essentially the same shape. It's just a sort of a tall domed cap, and then it's almost like a tree trunk underneath it. And you just repeat it and you just vary it. So these little ones are exactly the same, but they are thinner, and the little caps are narrower, and then what they sit on, their sort of stem, is a lot thinner than what you would get in a mushroom. And then once I got the basic shape, I thought I'd turn it into a village. So I turned these into little houses, and that was great fun. They have chimneys and windows, and it's meant to be a sort of a dusk scene. So some of the lights in the windows are on, such as here, so then they glow a nice yellow. But where the people are maybe out, I say people, who knows what lives in these places, the lights are still not on, so the windows are left dark. And that way you get a variation of the activity that might be happening in this location. And then for fun, I added some fairy lights all around it as well, and some hanging lanterns, and the whole thing just sort of grew. But it grew from the tree grew from the leaves, and the leaves grew from this sort of experimentation. So I hope you can see the sort of logical progression. I've got a page blank and ready for my gallery. Each month I do a little gallery and I print off about 4 photos just to capture what's happened in that month, because I prefer visual references to written references. I'm not a very good diarist, but I do like to keep a visual record. So that's what happened in July. Let me show you, oh, I think there was a little fly. Let me show you what happened in August then. So I've prepared August by using the same mushroom designs and making them much, much bigger. I tend to work on a small scale. We all have a certain scale that we're comfortable with. Mine tends to be small, but I wanted to really push it out for the month of August. So I've done this sort of a hint of a mushroom village. Again, we've got a little doorway, we've got a little window, and then a much taller mushroom, which I like to think has been put there to create shade for the little mushroom, but maybe that's because I've been experiencing a heat wave in France over the past few weeks, and all I can think about is, where is it cool? So that was my front page. I've done my August calendar, ready to be used. And on the inside I did something a little simpler. I just did some mushrooms in pen and ink. I prepared my August agenda calendar. I've put in there birthdays and details that I want to keep in front of me for the month of August. I put in my very, very simple font, August, at the top, and then I've prepared my goals, ideas and projects page with some extra little mushrooms and some very, very simple little foliage popping out from behind the mushrooms on the bottom of the page. And August has got off to a flying start for me because I've already put in a design layout for some copper work that I want to do. So these are all pieces that will be cut from copper. I'll solder them together, I'll put them into a picture frame, and I'm going to give this to a friend as a gift. And it features her dog. And that looks a wee bit like her dog. It's quite difficult to do dogs in silhouette when you know it's going to be cut from copper, but I think this might work. And that's where I've got to with August. July has been a bit of a tricky month because of Buster. He started limping very badly, so I took him to the vet. He had an x-ray under sedation, which obviously isn't brilliant. You know, he has a floppy time afterwards, but they discovered that he'd torn a ligament, so then he had to go back in for an operation to put that right, and now he is meant to be resting and calm for 10 days, waiting for that to heal. So wish me luck, because when you've got an active little dog like him, it's quite difficult to keep them calm and sensible, but we're going to do the best that we can for him. So I hope that this has given you some inspiration for ways that you might want to lay out your own journals, and maybe you would like to use them as places to capture your doodles or maybe some photos, but please find your own style, your own layout that works for you. I only use 2 pages a month, essentially, my planner and somewhere to capture my ideas, and that keeps it very, very simple for me and very, very easy. So I hope that will inspire you. If you haven't already, please subscribe. That really helps the channel. The other thing that helps enormously is if you can give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, if you found it helpful. Until we meet again, stay safe and take care.